Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel, quick video to get you educated, once again to save you a heap of money. Just because this is a 120 Prado doesn't mean the information isn't relevant on other Prados, other Toyotas and other makes and models. To do with transmission temp, what makes the heat, the torque converter. I'm purposely sitting here stopped. The engine's been running for about 10 minutes. It's currently 8:27 AM, just done the school drop off. Car's probably been running 5 to 10 minutes, okay? Okay, this is what I want to explain. The coolant temp only up to 61 degrees. That's the top left. The load's on 20 because I'm in drive. Don't worry about that. You can see that. The top right is the torque converter temp, 46 degrees, and the ATF 37.9, and that will be rising while I'm slipping the torque converter because I'm in drive. As soon as I pop it in neutral, you'll see some changes. You'll see the load drop down. It won't go as low as what it normally does when it's still not warmed up, but look at that, already down to 10, so that's a nice set of injectors, isn't it? Anyway, that's stock standard readings, 11 on the load, okay? 47 at the torque converter. You'll see that start dropping because we're no longer slipping it. And of course, the auto temp is up around 40, and 40 is the absolute minimum. On the newer vehicles, Toyota actually slipped the torque converter in the software to get it up to that exact temperature, 39, 40 degrees before, you know, they really want it warmed up to that ASAP. It's kind of a minimum, right? So if you've got an auto cooler in cold climates, you might want to be aware of that. The older vehicles, they don't do that, and you may be running it a bit too cold. So what we're going to do, we're going to head from Melbourne up to Bendigo on the Calder Highway, and there's a lot of hills going past Gisborne, and it's a perfect example of me being able to show you how the torque converter slipping makes the heat. So we're going to get into that drive and show you the info. Okay, so let's iron out some base statistics as we get started. Firstly, we've got an automatic transmission playlist. Not only does it tell you everything you need to know about your 4, 5 or 6-speed automatic transmission in your Prado or Hilux and transmission oil change procedures, it also talks about the torque converter, the transmission operation, and what makes heat in the transmission, so that you can avoid worrying about it, so that you can avoid destroying your transmission, and so that you can know how to keep the transmission fluid cool. It will last longer. It's what protects the components from wear and tear in the transmission, okay? So we're just going past Calder Raceway into the 100 zone. We're going to be sitting as close as possible to the speed limit. And I'm going to show you some examples. Now, I've got some, you know, I'm driving, I can have people help me holding cameras and whatever. We'll do the best we can, but mainly you need to listen to what I'm saying. I'm going to describe, I'll tell you that you can see we've got the device there. I can tell you the coolant temp now is 86. Okay, the load doesn't matter. It's not about that. It's about the torque converter and the ATF. Now, right now we're driving along at about 100 k's an hour. The transmission's in 5th gear in the 120 Prado A750F. It's sitting on about 2,000 RPM, and the temperature on both the torque converter and the ATF is 55 degrees, okay? It's going to be pretty boring if I start talking more about it now, so let's get up the road a bit further as it warms up, and I'll tell you why it's warmed up. I'll come back to you when the torque converter unlocks. How about that? Alright guys and girls, we're a few k's up the road, passing the Sunbury exit in a moment. Now, this is really important information. I'm going to remind everyone again, probably really important you subscribe and turn the bell on so you don't miss this stuff. It can get you educated and save you a lot of money and help you avoid problems with your vehicle that cause unreliability and unnecessary stress. And I'm going to save you some more money. I'm just going to go off topic for a moment. There's a whole number of new speed cameras on both sides of the Calder from around that, you know, Calder Park, or more around here, around the Sunbury area, up to around Gisborne, to about 2 k's past Gisborne. So there's some poles here, there's nothing up at the moment. Some yellow thing going on there. There's another one of those further up. At the moment, the torque converter is still locked. So we're back on topic. So it only took 20 seconds. I don't know, I believe these cameras that have been installed are just been put there for testing, okay? Because there's lots of different types. I reckon they're going to be doing some testing for probably a year or two to compare which ones they like, so they know which ones to go and buy from the, yeah, you know who, waste more money. Anyway, back onto the transmission thing. Let us know if you know any more than me about these cameras. Are they working? Are they just for testing? There's somebody that knows more about it than me, that's for sure. There's probably a number of people. So if you can share it in the comments, so people that travel these areas and want to know what these cameras are doing, if they're in testing, any up-to-date information. So transmission, okay? it's up to 61, both the torque converter and the pan temperature. So we've got two different sensors in the A750. We've got them both on our scan gauge too. That's what we're using in this vehicle at the moment. And we're gonna run through all the info again and explain it really clearly and simply, as clear as I can. So this is the most important video to stick with me. And then we're going to run through the other transmissions. We're going to show you the 4-speed, and the 6-speed, and talk about the different ones again. If you can't wait, go through that automatic transmission playlist because a lot of the information's already there. But this is trying to be the clean explanation. We're going to get distracted by some speed cameras and say, hey, who knows what these are, what they're doing there, and how long for, and all that. Okay, so we're on 62 degrees. Torque converter's been locked since I got on the highway. Cruise control set, as I said, close as possible to a genuine 110 at this stage. Going up this hill here, just past the other end of Sunbury, the torque converter is going to unlock. So stay with me. I'll explain it now. Hopefully I can do that before we get to the hill, and then we'll swap cameras and try and show you on the scan gauge what's happening. So at the moment we're on 62, 63. What's warming the transmission up is the transmission oil going through the tank in the radiator. There's another one of those cameras just there on the left. I'll stay in the left lane before I go around this truck. Look, what's going on there? They just got uncovered recently. Is that testing? I reckon so. But anyway, lots of different cameras along here, and they're all in a close proximity, lots of different types. It looks like a testing area to me is my guess, and somebody sort of said something like that in the comments. Now, the other thing that makes heat is the torque converter slipping. At the moment, we're still locked on 63. So I'm about to swap cameras. There it is, it's unlocked. Okay, this is what makes heat. We've got a bit of a problem though. We've got a guy in the left lane that can't get his speed happening, so we'll move over there. Thanks for holding that for me, yeah. You know, when you come onto a freeway motorway, ideally you're meant to have your speed up and be matching the vehicle's speed on the highway, right? So this is where all the heat in the transmission is generated. Up and down on these hills, this is where you burn up all your fuel, okay? What happened first is the torque converter unlocks. The torque converter temp is at the top right. It's still not really that hot, is it? Okay? But the actual temp of the pan's at the bottom, so not much happened there. We're back locked into 5th at the moment. You might see about 115. That's if you take off the 5K, 6K inaccuracy. Now watch what happens first. The torque converter unlocks and then it kicks back to 4th. Depending on the size of the hill, how long this takes to... Anyway, we're back to being locked in 5th. See that torque converter unlock? See the revs go up like that? That is the torque converter unlocking. That is what's making the heat. See the torque converter temp's gone up to 75. It'll keep going up while it's slipping 77. It goes up really fast. You've got to have your right temperature, or understand whether you've got pan temp or torque converter temp, okay? Because see, the pan temp's only 70. This is a good temperature. It's not even warmed up yet. This is what I'm saying. So I'm trying to save you a few things here. There it is, locked again. The two things we can save you. We can save you putting a transmission cooler on. I've never said to anyone, you need a transmission cooler. Now, if you don't learn to drive right like this, understand the transmission shifts when the torque converter's locked, then you might need a transmission cooler because you can't be educated. We can't help you learn that. I can help you learn that by getting you to watch all these videos. So subscribe, turn the bell on. We're coming to the next hill. Sorry, hard to hold the camera still. Thanks for you. Do the best you can, but you know, I understand, right? There it is, unlocked. But before long, it's going to go back to 4th because this is quite a big hill, and this is where cruise control chews the fuel, right? Choose it, right? So we're locked in 4th, so the temp's going to start coming down again on the torque of it, as you can see. And then as we get up here, it's going to go into 5th and then lock up. So the 5-speed autos in the 1KDs work really well. But what would be better is if I controlled it, as soon as I see it unlock, I slip it back to 4th, it locks again, and we drive up the hills in 4th. Happy days. Then it makes no heat. So instead of being at 72, we'd probably be still at 65 or something like that. Not that 72 matters, because we've got two things happening here. Appreciate you holding the camera there, buddy. Anyway, so we better get on back to the chit chat again. Right, so right now we're on 72 degrees. Happy days. Now, why is it going to stay at 72? We've got another speed camera up around the corner. We're going to get distracted. Right, have a look at it when we get there. We've been past another one. Let's just go off topic for a minute. It's hidden behind that truck at the moment. You might not see it. Oh, timing. It's going to be perfectly hidden behind that truck because we're moving faster than him. You might get a glimpse. No, there's a pole, there's the antenna. No, camera stayed behind the truck the whole time. So watch it at Gisborne. I think they're all in testing for a year or two, but you never know. We need to confirm that. So that's what we can use the community for. Anybody around the area, anyone in Australia, in Victoria, around the Calder, anyone in any sort of traffic management, be good if you let us know. We're not encouraging any speeding. We're just curious about what the cameras are there for. We believe some of these cameras, there's another setup here, detect, you know, phone use and all that sort of thing, and it's probably a good thing. So, but we're just curious, and it's better if everybody know, right? It's better if they know. So then they know not to use their phone while they're driving and be touching their phone and texting and reading emails and swerving all over lanes and all this sort of thing. All right, back on the transmission topic. We're on, guess what, torque converter's on 71, ATF's on 72. I'm going to put my, look, the coolant's on 85 degrees. I know these vehicles well. I drive a lot of, I've had a lot of Prados, Hiluxes, I've driven a lot. I know how they behave. It's going to get really interesting later in some other videos with the new 1GD. You know, the original one slips its head off, makes heaps of heat. The new one, it locks up really well, the torque converter, love it, but it still makes heat, so there's a twist, right? It's a bit crazy what's going on. So we'll get to that video. I don't know what order. If we're gonna do this run with the Hilux with the scan gauge and show you what it does. With the Hilux, the 4-speed, there's only one sensor, and it picks up the torque converter temp because there's hot oil fluctuating as soon as you come to a hill and it unlocks. Also cools down really quick, and it's quite possible to keep those running cool enough as well. So I'm going to run through it again. What's warming the transmission up generally is they want it warmed up. That's why they put a tank with transmission oil and the transmission lines running to and from it in the radiator tank to warm it up, and also to cool it down, right? To have it running at the ideal temperature, about 80 degrees, 80 to 90 degrees, happy days, right? Ideal. What it's designed to run at, no problem. If they wanted it to run cooler, they'd put a thermostat in there and have more cooling. They'd have a separate standalone cooler, blah, blah. These transmissions are bulletproof anyway, so stop wasting your money on crap you don't need. Just learn how to drive it so you can keep your oil good for longer. Do your oil changes every now and then as required. You can check the condition of the oil without actually changing it. By just taking a small sample. I've never told anyone they need a transmission cooler. Some people do. So that's what's generally heating and cooling the transmission to get it to its ideal operating temperature, all right? You got me with that. Now, there's two other factors for heating and cooling. Here's some of those cameras, you know, if you're holding, touching, using your phone, that sort of thing. Technology thing, maybe, we think, possibly. Let us know in the comments, okay? Now there's two things that's going on. We're in a 9-degree ambient temperature, so this is going to vary depending on your ambient temperature, right? Either way, the transmission pan is there. It's made of thin steel for cooling. So at the moment, we've got a 1kd cruising along at 110. It's doing it easy. It's not making a lot of heat. There's the airflow blowing over the engine and straight off the back with, you know, the exhaust, no DPF, and happy days. There's no real heat generation coming from the exhaust. You could be under there now with your hand on it. Wouldn't be too bad. You know what I mean? It'll be hot, but don't get me wrong. It's not roasting. You're not going to fry. Well, you might fry eggs on it, but anyway, I hope you know what I mean. Don't go and wrap your tongue around your exhaust pipe, all right? Okay, so the pan is what's getting a lot of cooling at the moment, especially when it's 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 15 degrees, 20 degrees, even 25 degrees. Quite a bit of cooling when you compare the oil that's in there, say 70 or 80 degrees. So that's gonna, it's got no, the air's blowing over it. As long as you haven't got it blocked by some brands of transmission protection plates. Some brands are really blocking that flow. That is really going to stop that airflow from cooling the transmission. I promise you it is. That's why you've got to consider, do I really need that transmission cover there? Is it a good design? The transmission sits up a lot higher than everything else. Am I going to go on those stupid tracks where I'm going to get a rock or something up there? Because look, Anthony doesn't see damage to transmission pans in the Prado Hospital. Maybe one car ever. And heard of one person that said, oh, I damaged mine. Well, mate, maybe you need some driving lessons. I don't know who that was. Sorry about that. But look, nobody else has damaged their pan. We go and do all the hardest tracks. We do some crazy stuff. Nowhere near damaging a transmission pan. So in my opinion, I've never said you need a transmission pan protection on a Prado, okay? I don't tell you don't need it, because each to their own. People get upset when I tell people too much what they do and don't need. I'm telling you at the moment, you don't really need trans cooling. Keep it reliable by not having that extra stuff there. excuse me, but if you do, of course, K-On make the best Australian-made brackets. The awesome coolers there in their kit. There's another camera on the other side. It's sort of half wrapped up. It's got some, oh no, it's not, it's unwrapped now. So that one's, but they all look slightly different. That's why I think it's testing anyway. Okay, so that's the outside factor that's cooling. Nothing else is cooling the transmission unless the transmission oil is hotter than the coolant temp. At the moment, coolant temp's 86, transmission 72. So the radiator at the moment is actually still warming up the transmission oil, although slowly, because the difference in temp isn't much, and we've got this cold 9-degree air blowing over the pan, keeping it cool, which is why it runs at about 70 degrees, even in hot weather, 80 degrees, and 70 to 80, which is perfect in conditions like this. But if I have big tyres, or if I'm towing, that's why they say tow in fourth. They don't want to try and spend the time and educate you like this, like I am. They just say tow in fourth. There's a number of reasons for that. We've gone into it in other videos. That's why it's important you watch all the videos. There's so much information in there. I'm trying to help you here. So the other factor that makes the heat, the main contributor to the heat, is the torque converter slipping. We said that already, right? That torque converter slipping is your biggest issue. The torque converter slipping makes all the heat. While it's not slipping, it's not making any heat whatsoever. It's locked, zero heat. Got me? Zero. When it slips a little bit, it makes a little bit. When it slips a lot, it makes a lot. Do you get that? So the bigger difference in the engine speed RPM to the transmission speed RPM in whatever gear, the bigger the difference in making heat. I think we demonstrated it a little bit. We probably need some different hills. Like I said, the 120 with standard size tyres, even with roof racks, awnings, shovels, storage systems, lift kits, heavy duty side steps at 100 kilos and full of fuel, pretty well cruises along all the undulations, staying locked in fifth. It's only those really big hills that, it gets aggressive. They lose a bit of speed, and then it's into it a bit. Talk about it unlocks, it's making a bit, and then back to fourth and all that. You're better off getting to know your vehicle, anticipate the hill, slip it back to fourth, take it off cruise control, slip it back to fourth, and you just ease it up the hill, let it slow down a little bit. That way it's easier on the engine and your fuel economy. And then when you get to the top of the hill, you can slip it back in the fifth and roll down if there's not another hill. If there's another hill, just leave it in fourth. That'll help with your speed control going down the hill, and then you're in fourth, still locked, ready to go up the hill. This sort of thing. See all the information, it just keeps coming. I think we're about done explaining that part of it again. The only part I'm going to include in the rest of the video is if I come across another hill where the torque converter unlocks in fifth, but it doesn't keep back to fourth. That's what I want. So we're running at about 73 degrees now, right? I could whack a photo in there if you don't believe me, but I think I've got no reason to tell you any different. I'm not selling you transmissions, transmission oils, scan gauges, or auto coolers, right? What do you need? None of those if you listen to my video on how to drive your vehicle. If you want to know the auto temp, the scan gauge is awesome. It's one of the devices. That's what we use to monitor that. I think everybody should have something in the vehicle to scan and clear codes. That's something that I'm telling you I think you should have if you travel more than 100 k's from home. Just like your RAC whatever, you should have that, because you can't always get them quickly and they don't always know what's going on. They know how to come out, make you wait an hour, then come and have a sniff around and call a tow truck for you, right? Make you wait another hour. You're better off being able to scan it, know what those common codes are from watching our channel, not by trying to search it when you're in the middle of nowhere and you got no internet. Know the codes, what's happening, know what a 1251 is, know what a P0400 is, and then know whether you got to worry about that code or not, or whether you just keep driving and ignore it, or what it's related to, whether you need to spray the arm on the turbo. You get me? It's a full thing. You need to get yourself educated before it's too late, okay, on so many aspects. They're the best vehicles, but as they get old, you're expecting 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, 600, all these kilometers. You think eventually something's not going to happen to you, and when at the right place at the right time, you want to be able to know about it. So I'm not going to crap on anymore. Hit the like button if you're liking it or liked it so far. All the regulars hit the like button at the start anyway. They're all subscribed with the bell on. Have a look at their comments. Don't take my word for it. I suggest you subscribe to the bell. In case you didn't know, we've got another channel. It's very educational on this sort of stuff as well. Driving, shifting, low range, high range, 4x4 Adventures, spelt the same as 4x4 Diesel, except Adventures, 4x4 Adventures. Subscribe, turn the bell on, check out those videos. We're trying to keep a couple of videos a week coming out. At the moment it's Wednesday and Sunday 6 p.m, I think, if I remember correctly. About that anyway, right? We're going to try and keep those flowing, just like 4x4 Diesel. We're going to try and keep Diesel flowing every night at 7 p.m, Melbourne time. Give or take half an hour. Every now and then we drop an extra video, every now and then we forget. Whatever, we make mistakes. We're not too fussed about the video side of things. What we really want is you to watch and listen to get yourself educated, so we can, it's working. We're seeing less of all the sorts of problems and the wastage, so it's certainly working. It's only not working on the people that don't listen, the people that are too busy to worry about that. They're busy working away, making money so they can waste it, instead of taking it easy, going out for lunch, enjoying a beer. I don't need to work that hard because I don't need to waste money on my vehicle. It's not going to do this, it's not going to do that. I don't need to waste money on this or that, right? So you get my drift? Yes, I talk a lot. Yes, I've got a lot to say. I have been sent to help you with your motor vehicles, and I'm doing my best, and it includes a lot of talking and sharing this information. Once you get it, you will love it. I'm telling you, all day, every day, whether it's the comments, the text messages, whatever, and thank you, I appreciate it, but I just don't need as many for that purpose only. If you're buying a parts kit or something like Injectors Mondays, you can send me thanks for the videos, I appreciate it and all that, but please don't go out of your way to put a separate message just for that. I get it, I know. Tell everybody else, not me. I'm here to help you, and I'm waiting for a hill. We're locked, right? We're locked. We're on 73 degrees. That's the other reason I keep talking, so I can tell you the truth. We're using the quad lock, it's awesome. We're using iPhone SE 2nd generation 2020s for the videos at the moment. We've got some older ones as well. The bull bar shakes around a lot, of course then the antenna. It's quite a comfortable ride, don't get me wrong, but it's the bull bar that's shaking around that you can feel. If you don't have the bull bar, then you don't get that shaking around, right? And that's what's shaking the whole vehicle. It's because the suspension's beautiful, the car's beautiful, but as you hit those bumps, it's the lack of strength in the design of the vehicle to cope with a steel bull bar that's that heavy and be able to hold it still. There, I think I said that right. Okay, the chassis is just a little 2mm thick. It was designed to hold a bumper bar. Whoever came up with the idea of bull bars, that was an aftermarket idea. This car went past me, I'm pretty sure, and then must have slowed down in pathology, whatever. You know, they said about. So this is the problem. We're both about the speed limit, probably give or take a K. And you know, when you got two cars travelling at the same speed, that's always the hard one. But it looks like we're going past. We'll get past slowly. We are overtaking, and nobody else should be in much more of a hurry than the speed limit. So don't pick on me, mate. I'll sit here as long as it takes to get past someone that's going 1 kilometre an hour slower than me. Happy days. It's all good. Now, so we've got it. We've explained the whole transmission operation. The only people that are still with us now are the ones that really hang around for every last bit. So I'm trying to work out what else I've got here. I've got a pretty flat road here, so soon I'm going to stop the video and we're going to wait. There is a hill I've got in mind that I believe the transmission, everything else, we're down to 71 at the torque converter, 72.2 at the ATM, right? You don't need the torque converter temp up. It's just confusing because when you see it, you go, oh wow, no, it's getting hot. All that matters is the pan temp, right? So some people, here we go, some people are going to go, so what's too hot? Well, there's no switch. There's no, oh, you know, it's okay at 80, it's okay at 90, it's okay at 98, but 99, oh no, it's not like that. It's a gradual thing that happens as it gets hotter. The hot, up to 100, I've got I don't care whatsoever. 100's fine, I've got no issues, right? I regularly, on this one, if I'm playing on, look, it's really hard for me to get to 100. It's usually under 90. If it's in the 90s, I'm probably suburban and I'm stop-start. Maybe I'm in a bit of a hurry because the more you push the pedal, the more difference in speed between the engine and the more slip you get, the more heat you get, right? So if I get into the 90s, it's going to be something like that. Or I'm in the high country in the middle of summer on a 40-degree day, going up a really steep hill that goes for about an hour, right? And it gets to 102. And I'm like, and who cares? Whatever, right? But if it's that situation or more the sand dune situation, quite often we'll find ourselves in whatever state, playing on the sand dunes. That's where I'm looking at the auto temp. That's what I want the scan gauge for, right? Because I'll be playing on these sand dunes for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then when I see it go to 102, 103, that's where I'll leave it running. I don't switch it off. I let it sit there. I get out the car, someone else has a go, a bit of a chit chat for 3 or 4 minutes. I get back to the car, And here, look at that, mate. It's back on 85 degrees, just like the coolant. So it's cooled down and we can have another go. I like it under 100. Now that doesn't mean if yours goes to 105, 110, even 120, that's a big problem. I don't like over 120, okay? So I'm explaining it to you in detail. Personally, I don't like over 120, right? And over that basically the heat oxidizes the oil, and the oil being good is what protects the transmission. And the hotter it is, the faster it oxidizes exponentially. It's crazy, right? So if you can keep it under 100, if you see it go over 100 and it's 105 or 110 for 10 minutes, I couldn't give a stuff. What, you went up to Mount Buller or something, Mount Hotham once a year, and you were up these windy hills for an hour and it was on 115 for an hour. I don't care, as long as you're not doing it all day every day, right? As long as you're not doing it all day every day. Get it? Speaker on the other side of the road, one of those parked car ones. Happy days. You get what I mean? So it's not like a switch, and it's not just about what temperature, it's also about how long is it at that temperature, right? So I don't care if it goes to 130, as long as it's only for a minute, but mine's not going to go. I don't even know how you do that. You know how hard I'd have to try to even get this to go over 100? So maybe you do need a scan gauge to learn to monitor your temps and stuff, but don't be confused by the torque converter temp, because like I said, it's the one that's going to go up quick. And just for the info, it's on 71 and the pan's dropped to 70.9. So cruising along like this, 9 degrees at 110 k's an hour, cruise control on about 115. I'm cruising at 71, right? Why would I need an auto cooler? It's going to bring it down to like 50 degrees. It's running I don't want it running that cold. It's not normal operating temp. We went through that, why they put it through the radiator and all that. Think how the engineers thought. Think why have they done it for decades and decades and decades, and all manufacturers do that? Do you think it's because they want it running cold? No, you don't want it running cold. So if you're running cold, get a guard made up or something like that. Maybe it's something K-On can do. If everybody's got a K-On trans cooler and you're in the colder climates and you want to cover the airflow to the cooler in winter, maybe ask them, send them an email and say, is there any chance we can come up with an auto cooler cover? You know, a kind of standard thing that you can flip in place. Otherwise, just get a plastic bag, whatever, right? Chuck a bag over it for winter and change it in summer, or take it off when you're towing, or make something up, whatever you want, right? So it's all good. Here we go. We've got a hill. Torque converter could be about to unlock. It may not. I'm going to... Gee, I've got a lot to say, haven't I? Yeah, it's stayed locked at the moment. This is what I mean. The grunty 1KD pulls up the hill at 110 k's an hour and it stays locked in fifth. No change in temperature. Okay. While we're talking, to save me explaining it in another video, and I'll probably do it again anyway, the other thing that makes heat, okay, and this is what we've realised with the 1GD, because it's a smaller engine, to generate the power and torque, it's got to work harder. So obviously longevity, it can't last. The engine, sort of common sense would say it can't last as long, but then again, if they make materials better quality, then it could last just as long or longer, right? So let's not speak yet. It's too early to know much about 1GDs other than the problems we know about. We're not going to go into in this video, right? But the other thing that makes heat is the engine. Okay, so the engine makes a lot of heat. We're on 85 at the coolant, which is just beautiful. It shows us an awesome cooling system. But what can make some heat? If we're working the engine, two things. The engine coolant gets hotter, and mine generally I don't see over 90, and if I do, that's where I back it off, because it's stated that normal operating temp is 75 to 90 for this engine. I like to keep it under 90. I look after it. I know heaps of people in the 90s and even over 100. I say crazy, but you know, they're still driving. Good luck to them, right? It's not what I want to do. But if you're running at 100 degrees coolant temp, then of course you've got an increased heating factor for your transition that way. Plus you've also got a hot engine connected to the transmission, heat transfer through those materials. That's one part of it. The other part is your exhaust system, or whether you've got a DPF there making a lot of heat, hot exhaust, DPF burns, and a lot of heat goes to the engine, the block and the transmission. You'll notice on the 1GD they've got some extra protection at the side of the pan. I believe, I don't know, I believe it's there to protect the gasket from getting hot and damaged and cracked and breaking and leaking. You know what I mean? Have a think about it, have a look under there, right? Because I've noticed a lot of heat being generated through the engine. There's only a one-way trip with the 1GD. Once the temp goes up, it stays there. This thing, if I for some reason got it hot and got it up to 90 degrees, within 10 minutes it'll be back to about the mid 70s. It cools down quickly. It doesn't happen with the 1GDs, so they're still slightly disadvantaged, I believe, from the heat they generate. We're going to have another video explaining that in more detail. This is where 1KD lasts the best once again. I'm going to do a video in the Hilux again, similar to this, try and keep it shorter with a bit less explanation, and I'll direct people to this video. Well done if you watched it all. Bada bing, it's pretty boring, so I'm going to say bada bing, bada boom for now. Subscribe, turn the bell on. If there's a hill somewhere on this trip where I can get that torque converter unlocked and constantly slipping a long hill, that's what we want. We're going to have a video on that, whether it's this tacked on the end of this one or something else. Thanks for listening, because you just got educated, okay? Bada boom. Catch you on the next one, or soon if there's a hill. And there it is, just quickly, it's a real thing. 70 degrees, cruising along. You can see, it's real, right? Catch up. Always unlocks right about there. That's it, that's the one. Now watch, this is our opportunity to, except I've got to slow down a bit. It's going to drop. I know we could be right. No, so I've got to keep it going like that. You can see the torque converter temp. It's not a massive hill, and it's about to lock up again in a minute. So there you go, like that, drops down, whatever. You know, didn't really work out too well, but that's it. It's a bit of an example. We're in drive, slight hill. Watch what happens. Torque converter temp straight up. A few potholes. We're on a dirt road. So I've had to slow it down. It's going to lock up. But you see the point? 10 degrees hotter. It's about 20 seconds later. We let it lock, let it cool down. Bit of a hill again. So you say I don't know what's going on. I'm in drive. Blah, 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 blah. You watch the torque converter. We've got a hill. We only got about another 5-10 seconds. See the torque converter? It just keeps going up and up and up. And therefore you'll see the ATF also following along. Not as fast, but there you go. Just cooling down. It's not just a few seconds, half a minute later. Basically, now you can see I've selected 4th gear. Now we can come to some hills. We've got some potholes here again too, a bit of a hill. But I can push the accelerator. You can see the speed increasing, how much it's increasing. That's how much I'm into it. And the torque converter and the transmission temp isn't changing, because we're in the right gear for the speed, and the torque converter stays locked. Of course, I had to slow down again. Like I said, I'm on a dirt road, but I'll show you again. It is, I'm going to get into it. You'll see the speed and the revs go up, and you won't see the torque converter or the ATF change. So quite rapid acceleration, with it staying locked in 4th. So basically, that's how you drive. Keep watching the videos.